My name is Roger Armstrong. I was born a psychic child in 1930. Protective intention attached. PIA, to prevent misuse. This is psychic training number 8. The remote viewing as time travel to Stonehenge in 3500 BC and to an ancient Russian spiral village. Normally when I go out to a new area or time, and I've had fun this last year with a group that I go to, an online group that I go visit occasionally, and I'm trading emails with one of the people there, and she's saying, "How far have you ever gone back? Remote viewing." I said, "Well, the furthest I've been back was 3500 BC, approximately, at Stonehenge." And she said, "Why that?" And I said, "Well, when I meet a woman that I'm interested in, and we've just met, I'll do an RV to see if we have a previous life connection." And she said, "Oh, that's interesting." And I said, "Yeah, it's interesting." And then that gives me some, if it's a positive one, that gives me something to talk about, you know, and that's always good. So she said, "Have you ever thought of going to Egypt?" Now this woman is a Mexican healer and lives in Mexico, and she's very tuned to different psychic abilities. And I said, "No, I haven't." She said, "Well, I think you might find that interesting for yourself." And so I did. I popped back, I opened up my mind and went back to an ancestor in Egypt. That was my channeling. I mean, that was my intention. And I end up talking to a very tall, willowy woman, and I'm RVing, and she recognizes the RV and sends me a telepathic, "Who are you?" And I'm surprised. I send her a telepathic back. And I said, "And what are you doing here?" She is an engineer from an off-world construction company. And she's a materials processing engineer. Is that what I want to say? She was in charge of moving all the stones from the quarry to the pyramid. So what she did is trained the local farmers who were having a very dry year and not much farming going on. She trained them to use kinetic ability and to move the stones, 20, 30, 40, 50-ton stones, from the quarry to the pyramids. And since they could move them faster than they could put them up, they stacked them in reverse order on the desert next to the wall that was going up. And quite a organizational thing if you stop to think about it, because each stone has to be cut a little bit differently, And so you have to do the top ones first and work it out that way. But anyway, however they did it. She showed me her house, and she had a steel or an iron, she had a steel sword that she wore on a strap on her back. When it was night, she went out horseback riding in the desert and went through her warrior exercises with her horse, jumping off, jumping on, swinging off, swinging on, riding backwards, swinging with her sword, blah, 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 because she was a warrior engineer. She was trained engineer from a warrior race. her name was Sunflower. I come back, I write all this down for my friend. She finds it fascinating, and she said, Roger, could you go and see if any of her ancestors are still around? Or where her ancestors went, because you don't know if she's married. And I said, no, I didn't ask any of those personal questions. She didn't ask me, so I didn't feel it was proper for me to ask her, you know. And she said, but you did a out of body with her finally, didn't you? And I said, yeah, I did an astral. There's two types of out of bodies, not counting remote viewing. That's the third. There's the astral, which is a wispy ghost form. Then there's the astral, which is the solid form. You just send your solid body out. And it has two variations, but we don't need to go into that, I don't think. But I showed up like my guardian, when he trained me, he was in astral, A-S-T-R-A-L form. And he said when I did out of body, I was in the astral form, like strolling. And he would get angry when I said I was an astral. He said, no, that's me. I'm the astral. And he made it very, very plain. And yet in none of the books you read about out of body do you find that definition change. And I've had that pointed out to me several times. But anyway. So I do another RV, and I end up meeting a woman named Lily, like my mom, and her husband, and he was out in the field plowing, but I recognized he wasn't turning the soil over. He was just cutting a groove and had a T formed, or a V formed, that was breaking up the dirt underneath the sod, underneath the grass that was there. He was cutting a 2-inch strip and then disturbing the soil underneath for about 6 inches. Now, I recognize this from my time at Penn State University and State College when I was there, not teaching. I was there because I liked the location. There was a grad student that did some work for me, and he was redeveloping what he called the no-till technique. And I told this to my son, my eldest, and my eldest son laughed because he's in the corn business. And he said, Dad, no-till is the latest technique in planting corn now. And when did you say this was being done? Well, roughly 25,000 years ago, he said, BC. He said, oh, what if these guys copied any drawings? Then he laughed, you know. Maybe they saw a pyramid drawing or something. But anyway. Now, I did an RV up away from Rita's and Lily's farm. They had 2 sons. One was Thornapple, and the other was Lindenbush. Now, they're a telepathic group of people, so all their names are like icons. Now, my icon is Roger, and it's a spear that's gone through a metal shield to the shaft of the spear. And this is the meaning of my name from medieval times. So I use it when I go out to these places. And so I went up and did an RV way up in the sky, as though I could see from looking at it on a globe where this was. And it turned out to be Moldova. Now, Moldova in those days was a large valley in between Romania, what is Romania now, and the Ukraine. And Romania took one side of it today. and there's just a little sliver of Moldova left. But at one point, when I visited, they owned the whole valley. And it was a headquarters for the Off-World Construction Company. Now, the Off-World Construction Company had a little side business where they would take antiquity sculptures from the primitive Earth people and reproduce them and sell them to museums around the galactic empires, you know, as a new find kind of thing. But anyway, the unique thing about Rita and Lily's society was that they farmed in spirals. They had a grandfather tree, and they started a spiral around the grandfather tree until it got to be about an acre in size, and then they would swing it back and do it again. And they farmed that way. And each of these spirals was about an acre. And they could, by placing things carefully, they could till almost all the field and have these spirals nest up against each other. You know, it was very pretty looking at it from a height. This is Roger Armstrong, and I'm always interested in your comments.